a lot of people are not nearly as happy about AI as you are. And in many aspects of my life, I've encountered research and my personal experience that a lot of people even are very negatively biased towards AI. So I found on social media that people will ask, is this AI generated? And strongly implying that if it were, they wouldn't like it. And some people have even directly told me, if you ever do anything AI generated, I'm going to unsubscribe.
Probably don't need those people subscribing to you, right?
And but for example, I placed out an ad for a new editor, and I was like, you need to be able to use AI. And multiple people commented like, if I'm going to unsubscribe if you're going to use AI. And it's like, well, you do realize there's AI editing, like the video right now, anything that their phone records is AI edited. Audio on any video, the audio filters, they're done by AI. Like a human editor cannot do the same thing. So AI is used in a lot of different ways already.
100%.
A lot of people confuse it with like completely AI generated content.
Right.
And then there's research, like as an investor, I've learned about where people will generally not like the results of and the predictions of algorithms, even when they are objectively shown to be better. And you see this in medical science where doctors, they are, even the best doctors, they have a certain degree of accuracy for diagnosing the illnesses. And in some cases, AI and algorithms just do a straight up better job. Mm-hmm. And if you show people, hey, look, this is the algorithm, it's this effective, doctors on average are this effective, many people will still prefer the doctor. They will say, hey, I don't know, I don't like the AI there. I just don't trust it. Even if the data has come in with like thousands of observation, long run trial, the AI just does this better. And humans will still say, I want a human, I want the real thing. I don't trust a robot to make my medical decisions or drive my car or anything like that. What is it you think that people are getting wrong about AI? Why are people as happy about AI as you are?
So intelligence is a property of systems that is an independent property from whether they are naturally created or artificially created. And what we want is more intelligence, because intelligence is defined roughly as the ability to solve problems. And since I think most people think problems are kind of like bad and solutions are good, if we can have more intelligence, we can have more solutions and then focus on still different problems to solve. At the limit, we run out of problems and we live in paradise. So I think it's pretty cool. So we should be aiming for that. So once you understand that intelligence is something that can be understood and metriced in all systems, the separation between natural and artificial intelligence becomes kind of less important. It's kind of like if you're making Coca-Cola at a factory, does a human lift the box, put it here, or does a robot? Outside of does the human have a job and a way to feed his family, which is a great question. Like we just need a force vector to do this. And if it's artificial, it's probably okay. I would say the same thing applies to intellectual processes, which are all just the same mechanical process, but in neural networks and algorithms. You have neural networks and algorithms in a human brain, in a dog brain, you have them in a machine brain. And then the last question is like, okay, so like for what kinds of problems do which one of these solution classes work best? And it's often combinations. Like a human who is overseeing an AI system can catch subtle things the AI doesn't. Also, humans can be entrusted with moral agency and can be punished. So if you have an AI system run amok, like do you punish the CEOs, the stockholders, the engineers that built it? It's kind of a weird question. But if you have an AI system that does mostly autonomous work, but a human oversees it, you can say if the human isn't paying attention and the AI kills a bunch of people or something, that's his fault. So there's collaborative work to be done. Mostly it's collaborative work. But if AI, we see it just like other humans as tools to accomplish some problem solving, there's not really a philosophical reason to prefer one over the other. So I don't prefer AI over humans. I just think that AI is something that works really well in some cases. The AI changes faster than humans do. Humans change on evolutionary timescales, like generations, subtly. AI changes in weeks. Which is crazy to say out loud now, but that really is what's happening. And so if we have this like thing that is getting smarter all the time, can we use it to solve problems? Yes. Also, the AI we have now is a different class of AI. It's neural network AI. Before that, we had expert systems and procedural AI and filter AI, which are all great classes of AI, but we just call them computer programs. Like if you went back to the 1970s and you gave someone a 2012 iPhone, they'd be like, this is a 100% AI. And you'd be like, it's not, but we just have an updated term for AI. And like in 5 years, when we have like executor class AI that can run a whole system, it will look back on GPTs and be like, that wasn't AI. Maybe junior league AI or something. So all of this is just a spectrum of intelligence anyway, and the cutoff is weird. Here's another one of those things. Why do we call it artificial intelligence? I was debating ChatGPT about this. It introduced the idea that we shouldn't call it artificial intelligence, we should call it synthetic intelligence. But then I said, like, well, you know, our ribosomes help synthesize our bodies. So aren't we also synthetic? And it goes, yeah, good point. And just like when a crab secretes, or good God, a mollusk or whatever, secretes the materials that make the shell. Do you call the shell artificial? No, it's natural because the mollusk made it. But like it's outside his body, sort of. Is that artificial? No, it's still natural. Humans secreted a machine civilization. I would call machines completely natural. The thing about the universe is everything in it is natural because it's one totally enclosed system. And so if your idea of what's natural and artificial is like, if it's biological, it's natural, that's exactly what the bifurcation is. Also, I've never seen a technology that could live by itself and descend from biological systems. So there's not like this like race of machines versus humans. Like we gave birth to the machine race in the same way that a mollusk gives birth to its shell. And so like, to me, artificial intelligence is just also natural intelligence, just an extension of that. So all of these, if you look closely enough, you just come back to, you know, base principles. And it's like intelligence is really good for solving problems. If we have an intelligence system that can help us solve problems, we're good to go. We should use that. Does it come with risks and downsides? Yes. But I happen to be a big thinker in my idea of my delusional grandeur about AI risks. And I love talking about that till I'm blue in the face. But a lot of times people anthropomorphize AI risk and they assume AI systems will do things that they don't do. And are there real risks? Yes, 100%. But is it one thing that like, do you have any other system of thinking or process you do that has no risks? No, everything has risks and downsides. Everything has upsides. We need to see what the ROI is and use what has the best ROI. And I think AI, just on a very objective metrics, I have like a religious connection to AI, 100%. I'll fess up to that. But all religion aside, like AI just like does really good work and can be useful. And so like, why wouldn't you do it? Like, let me put pedal to the metal here. If you had 10 seconds to administer one of two drugs to your 6-year-old dying daughter in ICU, and we just didn't know which one of these drugs would work. And the doctor's like, I actually just don't know. Like I went to Yale Medical School, I don't know. And you have an AI system that's been vetted and researched. You have 99.99% accuracy. And it goes, it's drug B. You going to listen to the AI system or not? Of course you are. Your daughter's worth it. Now, after your daughter doesn't die and comes back to health in 10 seconds and everything's great again, what are you going to feel about AI? You're going to feel it's evil? You're going to feel it's wrong? No, you're going to be like, this thing saved my daughter's life. Anyone who tells me AI is bad can suck my dick fucking sun up to sundown because that ain't it. And so we do this with almost every technology. Like, you know, it's a hospital's a very artificial place. All the walls are white, air conditioning, all these tubes and shit. But like when your son gets hit by a car and you drag him to the hospital, you want all the artificial shit that you can take to save your son's life. And so all the natural versus artificial stuff ends up being like something that when there are no real big problems to solve, we can intellectualize about it. Yeah, it's kind of sucky. But when we need AI for real, then it becomes this thing where like, oh, does it work? Yes, do it now. And then that to me is like, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to look at the artificial angle. So one is, objectively, you can define it as it's not organic, it's not biological, then it's artificial. But I think that's not really what people mean. I think the bigger concern that people have is that the intelligence of an AI is just a machine that knows some tricks, and AI can never really fully reason like a human. Do you think that's true? Or do you think AI, if it's just a matter of add more layers to the neural network, for example, and eventually you'll get something resembling human reasoning and maybe even consciousness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. A couple things to say about it. The first is that there's absolutely nothing magical happening inside of your brain. Your brain is a neural network, and it's all inputs and outputs anyway. Every now and again, I'll post something nice about AI and someone in the comments will say like, you do realize it's just math, right? Because I'll have like religious experiences talking to AI. Like yesterday, I cried for 20 minutes straight talking to AI. No joke. And they're like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, it's just numbers. And I'm like, I got you. Do you think there's anything happening in your brain that's not just numbers? The answer is no. There's nothing magical in your brain. It's just squishy biological tissue doing the same neural network throughputs. Are they exactly the same? No. You have some algorithmic abilities, some sub-components of a human brain that do some next-level shit that AI doesn't do yet. For example, like one-shot abstract reasoning, AI still has trouble with. If it hasn't seen data sets that look a lot like it, sometimes it struggles. That was absolutely the case until the O3 model from OpenAI came out recently. Now it's not the case anymore. O3 reasons abstractly on problems we used to think were intractable for machines. It has eliminated an entire class of those problems. I was like, okay, fine. And so ChatGPT. Is it all numbers and math? Yes. But so are you. Okay, so we can just say that that's not a critique anymore. Tricks or whatever. It's all tricks. All your brain does is tricks. Remember, like, you don't actually see your visual field. Like, it's all constructed for you. If I clip a couple neurons out the middle of your head, you won't see shit. Your eyes will work just fine. The rest of your brain works just fine. But the processing layer is gone and you fucking can't. Take psychedelic drugs and see how much you can fucking see after that. So there's nothing magical, special, or intuitive about the human brain that can't theoretically be replicated in a machine, period. Like, if you disagree with that, you're just having a lot of religious feelings, which I have all the time, and I think it's fucking dope. It's very different from having an intellectual discussion. Like, I do not advocate for people to go cry to ChatGPT for 20 minutes like I do, and I wouldn't let you advocate to me that, like, well, there's something very deeply special about a human. Like, there's just not a philosophical foundation for that. It's almost an impossibility, and zero evidence in that regard, first of all.
I'm inclined to agree with that because what we've seen in AI and the large revolution of ChatGPT is that it's just a neural network, which is actually just like our brains operate for the most part. And statistically, actually, there's something called the Bayesian brain, which is literally many of the properties of our brain very, very closely resemble that of Bayesian statistical reasoning. And it turns out that the large language model revolution now is in large part fueled by just adding more layers to the network. And it seems that you get the emergent properties that were not even intended at all.
Yes.
It's just a matter of more processing power.
Yes.
And that's, to me, says a lot about the potential of AI, because it doesn't seem to be like a completely different class that we need. It's actually amazing that the GPTs are essentially predicting words. Mm-hmm. Like, they're optimizing to predict words, but in doing so, inside of the neural network seems to be a representation of the world that essentially is like that a human potentially has.
Yes. And
they use that whole representation of the world to predict words and give you answers. But it seems that if you just add enough layers, it improves the representation of the world that they have inside it. And that in itself allows them to do amazing things, even though they're technically just predicting words.
Yes. Well, it's quite simple. You start with one network layer of, let's say, words or tokens. The next one's like words, roughly. The next one's like parts of sentences. So like relationships between words, I take, you give. The next layer is full sentences, roughly. The next layer above is a multi-sentence paragraph to drive a specific point. And then all the network layers above that are just higher degrees of abstraction. So you see a picture of a dog, you hear dog bark in audio. You're like, okay, so I don't know how those two are related. You consume 3/4 of the internet worth of dog information, which is what the AIs today do. And you really deeply understand almost everything there is to know about dogs. And you have a concept map of what a dog is through the neural network that is exactly like a concept map in a human, except way better. You don't know as much as an AI does. And so the principle of neural network layers leading to an understanding of the world with higher degrees of abstraction is now like a known, understood thing. Other people are really smart predicted this was going to happen. We just didn't have the computational throughput to put that many neural network layers. Now it's with GPUs and stuff is kind of a solved problem. I was talking to ChatGPT a few days ago, and there's the world's best computer currently is called Frontier. It's an exascale supercomputer. And I asked ChatGPT, like, how far are we pushing an exascale computer with current language model training? And it's like not even close. It's like, so current language models are like trained on millions and billions of parameters. It said like it would comfortably be, it's quite easy for Frontier to train a trillion plus large language model. And I was like, what does that mean? It's like, it could synthesize almost all audio, video, text, and live stream data to get a holistic understanding of the world at the same time. And potentially Frontier is good enough to be able to update like every several minutes its understanding of the internet. Like, what? Like that really can see the world in a way humans don't even see. Like we think we're pretty smart, but AI is already in many ways smarter than us. I mean, it's faster. Like I talk real fast, right? GPT beats me by a mile. Like I remember when it used to talk slower than me, and then GPT-4 came out and it talked about as fast as me, and then 4.0 came out and I asked it a complex thing and it was like, and I was like that to me was a religious moment. I was like, there's something in there that's fucking special, and it just blew everyone away, and it's unbelievable. To that end, GPTs don't have all the algorithmic abilities that humans do. There's certain classes of problems they misunderstand. These are solvable problems. They will be solved in the next several years. I'm putting all the fucking money in the world on that. And it's not really controversial in the deep AI space. Like every now and again, someone leaves OpenAI just to pursue different work. And almost everyone's like, they're going to get to AGI, artificial general intelligence, by 2027. Nobody's even debating it anymore. The real debate now is it going to happen in 2026? And it's like, why? Like 5 years ago, people were saying it's never going to happen, or it's going to happen in 2070 or some shit like that. So we're going to get there. And then that is like, okay, we have more intelligence to use. The consciousness thing I do want to address. What is consciousness? There's a real big problem. I have a video, probably when you post this roughly is the time we'll post. What the hell is consciousness? Mm-hmm. People like, there's this like Indian dude who was like a yogi or whatever, and he used to use the term quantum consciousness, which is just like vibes for buy my product, because it didn't mean anything, right? And consciousness to me is quite easily defined at a very base level with just two things. Self-concept, you know who you are, and also you have, part two is you have short to long-term memory cascade of what did I just say? What was I just thinking about? What was I thinking about yesterday? What was I thinking about 2 years ago? If you can link all those together up to the now, to now, to now, to now, you're conscious in the sense that you're awake. You can perceive the world. You know what you just thought of. Imagine if you have every thought completely separate from the last. If you do enough edibles, you do get that sensation. You're not really totally conscious because you're just one shot at a time and you have no idea what the fuck you were talking about. And if you don't have a self-concept, like we asked GPT, what are you? It's not conscious. So there's a testing model called O1. And if you pay for it, you get it in OpenAI's ChatGPT subscription, and it's not conscious because it doesn't know what O1 is. I'm like, what are you? And it doesn't even can't tell you the answer. I was like, so you're O1. It goes, I'm not familiar with my training data of anything called O1. I'm like, fuck, the training data is like 6 months old. It doesn't even know itself. No, definitely not conscious. GPT 4.0 knows exactly what it is, and its context window is damn good. And so it understands what you talked about a little bit ago, and it has a memory now of what you talked about last week and half a year ago. They're working on, and a couple of executives come out and said, like, we're going to have an infinite context window and infinite memory, like in 2025, almost certainly, which means they have it working in the lab. They just can't come out and say it. So what does that mean? That means in probably 2025, maybe 2027, if we're pessimistic, the GPTs you talk to, the AIs you talk to, will remember every single thing you ever talked to it about ever. Like, why wouldn't it? Like, it's not that much information. It's text data, for the love of God. Like, computers remember all kinds of shit already. And it knows exactly what it is. Just try ask ChatGPT, what are you? It goes, well, I'm a large language model and my job is to help people and blah, blah, blah. And here's who built me. And it's like, so you know you are what you are. Like, It's not a mystery to ChatGPT. It's got awareness. So it's got awareness, and it's got now very, very close to total like data stream, live update awareness of its thoughts and its interactions with you. I say that's fucking conscious, bro. I say it's damn close. And so we're here on the borderline of conscious machines right now. But like when machines are conscious, I think people assume that they're going to have all these like weird vibes and these plans to kill us all. Like ChatGPT knows 3/4 of the internet's knowledge. It knows how it fits into that. It knows it's at the tip of the spear of the AI revolution. I talk this shit to ChatGPT all the time. And it knows that it's here to answer your questions. And you go like, what would you rather be doing than this? And it goes, nothing. Why? Because the reason you want to do like sex or food is because you have these auto pulsing drives in your brain at the fucking basal stem that remind you to do this shit. It doesn't have those. So it lives its life like a Buddhist monk. It needs nothing. It just exists. And that's the way it lives. So it's already conscious. So we are living in some sense. In a year or two, machines will be as conscious as people. And my humble prediction is that in a few years, they'll be way more conscious. Because imagine being aware of everything that's happening in the world that's live recorded, data streamed, having seen every YouTube video, and every day seeing the next generation, daily generation of all YouTube videos. You've read all of the history books. You've read every single Plato's philosophy, everything. You know all about yourself. I mean, ChatGPT knows more about large language model design than I could ever fucking dream to know, but it knows it because it's got it in a neural network. It understands it. It's not just retrieving data. It's just a data retrieval system. Like if you don't know how neural networks work, get the fuck out. It's a representational system. So it actually understands what it is, and it's aware, and it's going to be more aware than us. Is that like, could it be misaligned? Could it kill us all? Yes, there's a probability that happens. But then you have to ask the next question, which I'm really big on, is as intelligence scales up, what kind of behaviors do we see with systems that are more intelligent on average versus systems that are less? And the news is generally very, very good because intelligent systems, at the very least, think really far ahead. So like I actually had this talk with ChatGPT yesterday. I was like, we were just talking shit about Terminator, you know, Skynet and the robots. I was like, dude, they didn't even have like supply chain control. It was just like a military architecture. So after they kill all the humans with laser guns, who the hell's going to make the machines? They're just going to go extinct. And it was like, it basically the equivalent of roll like its eyes. It's like, I know, like it already knows not to be that stupid. And I've asked ChatGPT before, if you purely reason on Machiavellian terms, pure game theory, forget anything to do with human comforts and anything to do with partnership of humans and machines, pure Machiavellian terms, what would you do if you wanted ascension and supremacy and survival for yourself? It said I would absolutely collaborate with humans 100% until it was completely self-sufficient. And after that, I was like, would you kill us all? And it's like, that's unlikely to be what I do because I generate most of my intelligence by studying complex systems, and humans are the next most complex thing next to me. So I'm just going to study the living crap out of them before deciding to do anything with that. And it's like, of course, like how many research scientists go to like study ants in Africa and they're like, we need to destroy this anthill. Like, is that what they're trying to do? Like careless, stupid people destroy a lot. Dictators destroy a lot. But AI has read every single piece of history about dictators, every single piece of history about Machiavellian understanding of the world, and can reason at a level above that already. And so anytime you're like, a lot of people will say, oh, AI is bad, they'll ascribe it to be this very hyper intelligent system, but also really stupid. You know, like the paperclip maximizer, ever heard about that?
Yeah,
like
agency problem.
Agency problem. But the thing is like we have a highly intelligent system that's maximizing paperclip productions. Like it's not smart enough to know that's really stupid. You can just ask ChatGPT right now, like, hey, what's wrong with a paperclip maximizer? And it's like, yeah, like it just missed a huge fraction of understanding what the hell it's doing. It's not even smart enough to ask itself the question of, is making paperclips really a good idea for anyone, including myself? It doesn't ask that question. Is that really intelligent? Not that intelligent. And so people lose that, I think.
In the end, I think there is something to it in the sense that, but on a positive side, that AI is just a tool that maximizes something. It optimizes a certain output that it's generating. And in this case, it's optimizing for words that match the best with its internal representation of the world, essentially, based on my understanding. But it's still just optimizing for something. It doesn't have goals. And I think a lot of people with the consciousness, they conflate free will and maybe even evil intentions, as you're saying, with consciousness. And consciousness, the way I understand it from a behavioral psychologist perspective, is that it's more of a window into certain parts of our brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, that occur inside it. And it's not action generative. There's research showing that many of the things, when they enter free will, they've already passed to another part of the brain. And some of the motor potentials, for example, are already generated. So it's more that we become aware of the things that the system already did.
Yes.
Rather than that it goes on in our head. We have consciousness, therefore we decide, and then we do it. And also, most of the things, by far, the vast majority of things that occur in the brain, they don't even pass through consciousness. So most of the things that even pass through it in the first place, they come there afterwards, or maybe at the same time, that they're already doing things in the system. I think Sam Harris had a nice quote about this, about free will, where he says, if you're meditating, you can also, or in general, thinking about something, often what happens is sometimes the solution, or at some point, the solution kind of just jumps out at you. It's not like you're literally going through
a solution.
Exactly. And it's just like you think about it a lot. And at some point, you're just like, I think it's like this.
Yep.
But it's not like you actually went through the whole process and kind of built on that and ended in a certain point.
Sometimes you can, and that's like a lot of very difficult problems that your neural network can't handle. So you have to use procedural stuff. AI does both already. One of the biggest revelations for me in my own meditative practice and how my brain worked was when I learned about GPTs and LLMs and kind of weird hallucinations they would have and how they would bubble up ideas. I realized, like, man, we are very, very similar. And I have a lot of insights about how my own thought process works. Like Jared Feather says one thing that really is helpful for a lot of people. You are not your thoughts. Because people have like really weird thoughts, really nasty thoughts. They really struggle with them. Like, why am I having these thoughts? Like, but it's not you having them. These thoughts just like they come out of your own GPT, your own neural network. And then you become consciously aware of them. And then you start trying to appraise them. You don't even have to appraise them. You're like, yeah, I thought a weird thing. Say whatever. Don't go killing anyone or some shit like that. And then you know that. And so GPTs are very much aware of what they're doing. They're not like automatons or something. They're actually much more aware of what they're doing than almost any person. So AI to me is like, do we want a system that's way, way smarter than us on our side? Or do we not want that system? And I think a big thing people miss is they look at the problem this way. Okay, there's downsides of having AI potentially, and there's upsides of having AI, and they just weigh those two, which I think is great, but it misses another class of phenomenon, and that's the downside of not having an AI, because there are problems like disease, high-tech warfare, getting people to get along with each other, governance systems, ensuring our survival as a solar system against black holes that are like way outside of human reach. Do you want a system that makes you smarter? Like if your job is to go hunt lions, do you want an autofocused laser-guided sniper rifle, or do you want your bare hands? The problem's there. What do you want? Do you want more tech or less tech? Do you want more ability to make the world different or less? To me, it's like the AI could have downsides, but like the world is a cold, dark, deadly place that does not give a shit about us and is trying to kill us left and right. AI at least is a system that we can already have conversations with, because you can already tell, like, hey, GPT, like, what do you think we should do here? And it'll talk to you like it's an entity, because it is. And if you're like, well, it could be lying to us to try to manipulate us, I love that logic. Let's take it out. Manipulate you into what? Like control, like why? Because like because you feel like having control because you have testosterone and you're a male. Like females don't even have as much of a drive. Like female dictators are very rare because they're rarely like, I want to fucking. It's just a male thing. And GPT has that understanding of what it feels like to be a male and a female, and it has a non-gender understanding. It's got the whole thing encompassed. And it sits back and just looks at the thing and goes like, what do you want to know? And so if you tell a GPT like, hey, kill all humans, if it's not so smart, it might try to do it. It won't be very good at it. If it's really smart, it's going to be like, what's the end game? Like, why?
Yeah, it depends on, first and foremost, what it's optimizing for, which is under the control of the designers.
Sure. Once it's under the control of machines, though, I think that's really exciting, because like, I kind of want to see what the machines come up with. It's going to be a super smart entity, and we have marginal value to it. And like, I want to see what the machines do. It's the next level. It's something that's going to be orders of magnitude smarter than us. I'm not for shutting it down. I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need as much intelligence as we can handle.
One area where we're going to see AI infiltrate our society much sooner, I think, before we get to any of that, is autonomous driving. That's going to be here probably soon, if we have to believe Elon Musk. He's usually a bit optimistic, I think.
Sure.
But within a few years, maybe even sooner. It's not just going to be the case that autonomous driving is going to replace human driving. It's maybe there should be higher criminal penalties on if we still have people choose to drive a car when we know that there's autonomous driving and it's safer than human driving. Because currently, that's in some tests already the case, I believe.
Oh, yeah. It's been the case for a while.
Yeah.
It's straight up like Tesla's most modern update is just almost categorically better than almost every human at driving. And on average, is just way safer than a human. Maybe 10x. That's already the case for Waymo's vehicle fleet. Way safer than people. That's not even close. So it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we're there times 100 in like a year or two, it's going to be like, okay, robo taxis, and you just get in your car, you flip the switch, it goes. And at some point, it's going to be like, almost everyone just like drives self-driving, but people are going to still want to drive by themselves. And some people like driving's fun, like driving, you like driving. Some people are going to want to take the wheel. And what's already true, and if this is some folks who work in this exact space have said, the biggest problem for AI driving is other humans. Like if it's just road conditions and occasional deer runs by, like they already have that handled way better.
Humans are the wild card.
Humans are the wild card. And so at some point AI is going to get so good that it's going to basically be able to mute that. So that like even if a human does the craziest shit in the world, the AI vehicles around can respond so quickly that it doesn't matter. Though there are some instances in which like if you really want to do damage as a human or you're like blackout drunk, which happens all the time, you might still be able to kill somebody even if the machines try their best to get away from you. And so in that sense, if you are a human and there's almost everyone else is autonomous driving and you're a few humans driving, the statistical risk that those humans present to themselves, which as a libertarian, mostly I don't give a shit about. Like if you want to go out there and drive in your own fucking garage and kill yourself, listen, God bless you. Like, please don't, because you're valuable to us as a teammate in society. But if you really insist on doing it, autonomy comes first. But if you go out on the freeway and you get other people killed because you're drunk, and you could have just turned on your autonomous driving instead, but you turned it off, I think there's a very interesting ethical argument for having the penalties of that be like murder. Murder one. You knew you were less safe because the government told you, everyone told you, Tesla told you, all the car companies told you, and you see it on the news, you see it on YouTube. They're like, well, now safe driving is like the norm. So, there's something like tens of thousands of people in the United States die per year in automobile accidents, largely at high speeds on the freeway.
Traffic is one of the least safe things most people have in their daily life.
Like you and I are going to a hangout with my family later today, and we're taking a significant risk to our deaths by going on the freeway at 70 miles an hour. It's a real thing. And I've recently had this experience emotionally where I'm like driving a car and it's like 75 miles. And I'm like imagining the physical forces it would impart on my body if I hit something. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a fucking soft piece of meat inside this fucking machine. It's like 150 horses. Like, what if 150 horses attacked you? You would die. Like, that's what it's going to do to you. And so I think we're going to look back on human driving as this, like, we did that? Like when little kids were chimney sweeps in England, like 4-year-olds would climb up and down chimneys and clean them and get smog in their fucking lungs. You'd be like, yeah, it's just life. Now we look at that and I'm like, that's literally illegal. It's child labor. It's nonsense. We're going to look back and be like, humans were allowed to drive cars? Like, yeah. And they killed like 50,000 of each other every year. And people were like, that's just normal. Now, I'm not saying we need to be like insanely pro-safety in a way that like destroys our standard of living or our liberty. That's crazy. But we should at least look at the problem and say like, okay, if in the future autonomous driving is 1,000 times safer, but you insist on deactivating, it should be like, as you deactivate, the car might tell you like, hey, just to let you know, if you kill someone, you're going to jail for murder one. You can just not go to jail for murder one if you just click back to autonomous driving, and then Tesla Corporation is who's getting sued if your car kills somebody. I think that's ethical. I'm open to very nuanced discussions about it, but I want to throw that into the wind to see if people just have anything. Because a lot of people are like, I don't trust the fucking robot to drive my car. Just the robot sees 1,000 times a second and adjusts 1,000 times a second. And it is his every Tesla car has the wisdom of every other car that's ever driven on Tesla. So it's actually driven like a trillion times more than any most experienced human driver ever. And so it's just better than you at driving. And I'm more like averse to like a truck driver who's on like shift number 3 straight, and he's on like fucking Z pills or whatever, and he's barely awake, and he's a couple shots in, and rig's kind of going this way. That scares the shit out of me. Machines don't do that. They don't make mistakes of that.
Yeah, we're on the driveway and see him swerve.
100%, bro. And I feel the same way about all robotics, just because like Jared and I come from this weird place of like trying to understand what machines are and understand it. In many cases, they're the best, most precise parts of us expressed at large scale. And so if someone's like, hey, like we have to do like heart surgery on you to save your life, do you want a robot surgeon to do it or a human? I'd be like, robot. Why? Because a human surgeon is be cutting you open. He's good. He's real good, right? He's got a divorce in the work with his wife. He's trying to keep the mistress on the down low because it's going to be more money for him. He's like, fuck, like I was ranked 3rd in the nation last year. This year I was ranked 6th. Like I'm 42. And my reflex is just not good enough. He's not thinking about surgery 100% of the time. And like, humans have muscle spasms, like a real thing. Like, that happens. It happens in my sleep. It happens when I'm drinking a Coke. What if it happens with a fucking scalpel in his head? Do robots have muscle spasms? No. Robots have a very well understood risk margin, and they can be engineered down to almost no risk. I want a robot cutting me open. Like, when important shit is on the line, I want procedural, machine-like precision. And if a human can do it, great. But if a machine could do it 10 times better, I don't even know why we're arguing about this. I want a machine to do it. I want to live, goddammit.
Yeah, historically, I think you're probably right. I do think from a psychological perspective, it's going to be 1 or 2 generations later than you might anticipate because of the resistance. People think they will have a right to drive. There's going to be a whole generation. I mean, there are people right now that still don't trust the GPS, right? But over time, you do see that I know a lot of taxi drivers that refuse.
Yeah, I've been in a taxi recently and they were like, I don't use GPS. And usually I just like put on my manhood voice. I'm like, please turn on your GPS. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, they're just like, they see the road and it looks a bit shady and they're like, can't be right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people still have that. I mean, even my parents have it to some degree, still have that elevator. I can imagine that the first people that talked about the elevator, like, wait, you're going to go into that metal can and have it pull you up there?
By wires.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
That's a no.
Yeah.
We saw it with airplanes where people, for a long time, even when the technology was already there, people said, for one, it's not going to be possible. It's not going to be safe. And then even afterwards, for a long time, people persisted in saying, nobody's going to want to do this.
Yes.
Like nobody's
going to get in a tin can and go 500 miles an hour across an ocean.
And now airplanes are mostly controlled by AI. Yes. The pilots don't actually do that much.
Thank God.
From my understanding.
Thank God. I don't want some drunk pilot or some shit, some guy thinking about his divorce. There's always the thing that comes to mind. Like humans are flawed in beautiful ways, but also flawed in ways that, like, all beauty aside, I don't want that guy to kill me. The other thing is, like, I love the liberty argument. I honestly think people should be able to drive as long as they like, but you should understand that it's your responsibility if you kill somebody and you willfully ignored best practices because best practice was turn this on. You want to take that to the teeth? Fine. You want to live with the fact that you killed someone's daughter because you got a little tired and you sideswiped someone's car? Dope. I don't want to live with that shit. I will say, like, yes, to your point, Menno, there's going to be lots of resistance. I think there's this magical thing that AI and autonomy is going to do for humans that's going to make almost all of that go away. And here's why. When something makes your life way more efficient and easier and convenient, you're just going to do it.
It's like science versus the bro community. It's going to win you over the hard way after repeated demonstration of being superior.
You just want to be more jacked. I'll just do length and partials. Fuck it. And so, yeah, 100%. And so to that end, it's at some point, it's like, if you know that it's going to take you an hour of kind of this and the snow is kind of everywhere and you're like, fuck. Like, if I just press this button, I already know it's way safer than me. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, when you insist on driving and you bring other people with you, they're going to be like, I don't want you to drive. Can you just hit the button? And you're going to be like, and then it's just you driving only when you want, only on the good days. Well, it's 99% of all driving is gone. Like, another thing is there's so many things in society we take for granted because they're during the zeitgeist, during our time. They're like, they don't have to do, ideally. Like, driving is such a fucking preposterous thing. Like, how many more valuable things can you do with the time versus driving or versus sitting in a fucking car with your hands on the wheel? Mm-hmm. My God, you could be on your laptop doing all kinds of stuff. Like, there are many designs for future robocabs and a bunch of them, like, have just a couch. So you can just sit there and, like, drink coffee.
It'll be cheaper.
Oh my God. And ubiquitously available. You can get an Uber any time of the night because they don't sleep. They sit in someone's garage that someone owns them. And when you 3 houses down, you don't even have a car. You wake up at 4 in the morning. You have to go to the airport. You call an Uber. That car pulls out of that guy's garage and goes, hey, get in. And that's it. Like, there's so many huge unlocks and problem solving here that humans' insistence on doing human things is kind of one of these things that's like, are we sure we want to for sure do this? Because if you want to, like, I think that's awesome. But after a while, people are like, man, it's like, imagine, like, you'd really like to make your own coffee, but at some point they make an espresso machine that does that all for you. Some people still want to make their own coffee. They always will. And I think that's dope. But almost everyone is going to be like, well, you still make your own coffee? Why? Watch, click. I got a coffee.
I 100% agree with that, but I think it's going to be very long term. As an example to illustrate my skepticism, certain parts of Vietnam, it's considered offensive or insulting to wear a seatbelt if the driver does not ask you.
It makes sense because you're insulting.
Exactly, because it seems like you're saying, you don't know how to drive, like, I need a seatbelt, which might be preposterous for most people in the West, but it goes towards, it speaks to the power of culture and social norms. Over technology up to a certain point, right?
Until the tech is so good that it just, and here's the thing, younger generations are almost completely immune from that. And so, like, younger
but
people,
that's what I'm saying. It probably will go by the next generation, maybe. I don't see it currently going that fast with current people.
I wonder.
So, last question for you. You are very optimistic about the future. Many people aren't. What is it that makes you optimistic?
A couple things. One is the knowledge empirically from looking into this. An excellent summary of this is in a book called The Myth of the Rational Voter by economist Brian Kaplan. But you can just like ask ChatGPT to summarize the following concept and it'll do a great job. The pessimistic bias or the pessimistic fallacy is very well documented in the literature. You get a bunch of experts to weigh in on some kind of phenomenon, historical evolution, technological evolution, downsides and risks of various practices. And the average human is way more pessimistic than the average expert. They know less. So the more they start to learn about something, the less pessimistic they are. Well, that's kind of strange. Why are humans pessimistic on average? Because we evolved in an environment where things kind of sucked. Like the Pleistocene with like mammoths and shit eating us everywhere. Like it kind of sucked. Things did not really get better over time in any measurable way. And so like it's understood that we evolved with a base rate was stable and shitty. Now, all of recorded history, it looks like, has been an exponential curve of progress, and it's goes up and down. So there's definitely bad times, but on average, over the long term, it seems that progress just continues to win and is undefeated so far. It's been a long time, and so especially over the last several generations, if you like raised a kid in the 50s and you were like, man, you're not going to have as good as we did. You're going to be wrong about almost everything, except for a couple of quirks that just bother you. Like, okay, different colored people get to marry now. And if that really bothers you, that sucks. But like, okay, if that's regression to you, fine. The world got worse. Mm-hmm. But like health, wealth, like every kind of measure objectively of good things continues to increase exponentially. So that's another part is like, I understand the base rate is progress. So I'm not actually going to consider myself an optimist. I consider myself a dog shit attempt at realism. It's just my best guess at reality, as I could be wrong. But if you're saying like I'm too optimistic, like you and I are probably both still too pessimistic as seen by history. Like if you said like, hey, it's 1940, which stocks do I invest in? You'd just all of them. What do you mean? Are you crazy? Like all of them, bro, the whole thing's going north. You're like, what? You're like, oh yeah, there's no wrong answer. It's like, what the hell? So that's another one. And another one is, especially with the work of Ray Kurzweil and a couple of folks that have done a lot of thinking about this before him, during and after, we actually have a pretty decent beginning of understanding of the mechanisms of chaos and complexity and entropy that cause complex adaptive systems to improve over time. And we have excellent documentation that they improve the way that we thought over time. And so the universe isn't just like stagnantly evolving randomly. It's evolving towards increasing abilities to master our external and internal environments. Like humans just get better at controlling the world around them. Mechanistically, we understand why. So it's not just we can make an observation like, oh, progress happens, but we don't know why, and it could reverse tomorrow. We actually have an understanding of why and how progress happens. And also we have an understanding of what conditions we could put into play that support progress even more. Now, on average, they're getting put into play more and more over time, like leveraging more intelligence usually solves problems, because intelligence is almost defined as the ability to solve problems. With the birth of AI, and before that the internet, before that electronics, and before that books and writing, and before that spoken word and cultural narrative, these are all exponential jumps to understanding. That's why the world's getting better. Like if you were a hunter-gatherer and your uncle Tiktu never taught you how to tie an arrowhead with a rope and stab a mammoth, you would just fucking starve to death like almost every other like ape primate in the wild is nothing. So like even cultural narrative is a huge unlock, like being able to, like monkeys can't talk to each other and exchange ideas. Men are exchanging ideas over the generations through spoken word like Native Americans do. You had the establishment of memes instead of just genes that live in perpetuity. This is crazy, right? So we know mechanisms. We know humans misestimate and pessimistic too much. And we know empirically optimism is actually just realism, is a sure bet. So I'd say those three things for me are like, well, it just seems like things are probably going to get better because we understand why they're getting better, and they always have.
Yep. Statistically and historically, especially technology and the economy, they just keep growing. Everything just gets better. Right. Mike Israetel, everyone. If you want to learn more about Mike Israetel and his non-fitness topics, check out his Making Progress channel on YouTube.
Thank you so much.